Here goes. All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. I'm here with my father, John Shively, and I'm going to make a kind of an introduction to spectral radius, which I wanted to share with you anyway, and I thought, why not share it with the world? Because part of the philosophy of spectral radius is that conversations worth having are conversations worth sharing with the world. In other words, if we're going to spend, the next hour having some in-depth conversations and me presenting to you what I've been working on for the past few weeks, then, why not share this conversation with everyone? So we're recording it. So welcome, everyone. And really, I'd like to think of this not so much as a presentation, but as a conversation. It's a conversation with my dad and a conversation with all of you, because any thoughts, any comments, any questions, input, whatever that you may have, please feel free to add it to the YouTube video that you're watching right now. Just go ahead and type whatever comments or questions, and then we'll address them in a future video. And that's actually kind of a good beginning of an introduction to what spectral radius is. What it is we're creating this network of conversations, network of topics, and video conferences that we're going to be hosting and organizing on multiple different topics, as we'll discuss. And the whole objective of all of this is spectral radius. Let's talk at a high level what spectral radius is, and then we can talk in some detail about how it works and specific topics that we'll be addressing. So spectral radius is a platform for empowering all of us in the world to take responsibility for our planet and for our future, and for making sure that all of us, all of humanity, all the people living in the world are well, that all of us have enough to eat, all of us have a roof over our heads, basic health care, human rights, etc., etc., etc. And I think it's kind of fascinating, but since all of us have grown up in a very different world, it's almost hard to imagine that world that we're talking about. We'll talk more on that kind of philosophical topic later. It's actually very important, and we'll talk about the 3 stages of acceptance in a little bit here. But it's a platform for achieving all of this, and the way that we're setting about to facilitate achieving this new kind of world that we all want to live in, a sustainable world, a world where we don't have runaway climate change, where we don't have irresponsible exploitation of the world's natural resources, ecosystems, etc., but where we are responsible stewards of our planet and of each other. And the way that we're creating this is by creating a community of committed individuals such as ourselves, and a whole community of experts in various different fields, and volunteers, passionate people who all of us are committed to transforming the most daunting problems that are plaguing our world, such as runaway climate change, hunger and poverty, human rights abuses, crime, corruption, irresponsible management of our natural resources, including water, hydrocarbons, phosphate fertilizers, you name it. And the way that we're going about this is, and as you can see on Spectral Radius, spectralradius.com, you see a taxonomy of different topics, and you can play with that. We're building out our taxonomy, but if you want to see an example of a really great taxonomy and with similar functionality, go to beyondmastering.com, and that's a site put on by our Chief Philosophy Officer, Steve Turnage, who's also the author of the book by the same title, Beyond Mastering, an excellent book. He's the one who told me the term, the hot apple pie in the windowsill, that we were talking about earlier today. So anyway, so this, in that taxonomy, we're creating several different topics, and we're going to give introductions to several topics today and create several different videos for that purpose. And as you'll see in the introductions to those topics, the objective is to transform a specific issue such as hunger, and in the process break that problem down into several subtopics, like, for example, desertification. There's runaway desertification in various parts of the world, very notably sub-Saharan Africa, and what that's doing is that's doing several things. Two of the biggest things that it's doing is reducing arable cropland, and therefore the ability of that part of the world to produce food for its people. That's causing mass starvation. It's also accelerating climate change, because as vegetation gives way to desertification, all that biomass, all that carbon that's sequestered in all those plants and the roots and the soil and everything else essentially breaks down via bacteria and evaporates into the gas phase, and that contributes to CO2, methane, and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere accumulating. So it's an extremely harmful phenomenon that's going on. And as we'll see when we get into that topic, we actually have the technology to reverse desertification, and it's going to require multiple projects to set that in motion. Each of those projects will be a separate topic within Spectral Radius, right? So it's kind of a divide and conquer approach. We're dividing up the world's global issues into their relevant subtopics, where we can gather the relevant experts from around the world, come together and create actual plans for transforming all of these specific issues, for conceiving of, designing, planning, and executing various different projects. So for example, reversing desertification in sub-Saharan Africa is going to require probably dozens, if not hundreds, of very specific projects which need to be conceived of, designed, implemented, and tracked and improved upon, evolved over time. It's a constant evolutionary process. What all this requires is that the various experts of the world who are going to be working on these specific topics and projects, that we have a platform for communicating, right? And what better platform for communicating than the live video conference, which is recorded and posted on YouTube. Why is it recorded and posted on YouTube? So that people who join the conversation later, after 5 or 6 meetings have already taken place, they can watch the previous meetings and get up to speed, or they can read a summary of them or whatever. And then if the summary is not enough and they want to drill into a specific topic, exactly what was that point that was made? How did they reach that conclusion? They can actually go back, watch the videos, and see exactly how we arrived at whatever specific conclusion. And then if they want to challenge that, or if they think that they've got a better idea, they can branch off from there, create a new subtopic or subtopic, organize a meeting with whoever they want, record it, broadcast it, and then it becomes part of the content of Spectral Radius related to that main topic. Do you see what I'm saying, Dad?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, and you taught me how to organize and host meetings, and so a lot of this is from you. So I want to acknowledge you for that. So in fact, one way to kind of visualize what Spectral Radius is, since it's kind of hard to describe completely because it's such a big concept, but you could think about it like, what if we were to gather together 10,000 of the most committed, passionate people, powerful people who want to transform, who collectively are committed to transforming all of these global issues that are the most daunting issues for our planet and for humanity. And we were to get all these 10,000 people together in this massive conference center that has, say, 1,000 different rooms. And for the first several days of the conference, we're all gathered together in a general assembly, and you have a series of speakers. You have experts on climate change, experts on natural resource depletion, experts on water, on hydrology, on experts on peace and peaceful conflict resolution, et cetera, and human rights and political science and philosophy and all these different fields, engineering, the sciences, et cetera, all coming together. And in the first several days, we essentially align and define what is the overall aim that we want to achieve, right? Do we want to achieve just eliminating hunger and that's it? Or do we want to achieve that and reversing climate change? Do we want to just halt climate change, or do we actually want to reverse it? Well, what's possible? What would, at a high level, what would it mean to halt it? What would it mean to reverse it, right? And do we want to make war obsolete on planet Earth? Is that even achievable? Why wouldn't it be? right? And so, but those kinds of conversations, and how do we do all this in a holistic way? So basically, the first few days of the conference would be to define the overall holistic aim for what we want to achieve for planet Earth and for humanity. And then at that point, we break it down into its major issues, major topics, subtopics, et cetera, et cetera. And at that point, after the first few days, different groups would break off into these different rooms. Remember, there's 1,000 rooms at this conference center. Imagine that outside of each room on the door is a sign saying, this is the topic that we're covering in this room. Now, the various different participants, the various different experts, can go from room to room and say, they might spend a couple hours on a certain topic and then go to a different room to address yet another topic or listen in on what's going on. And if they say, wow, that's a fascinating conversation, I really feel bad that I missed the first 2 hours of it, well, it's all recorded and you can play it back at any time. So that's the essence of this. And then over the course of the next several days, weeks, however long it takes, collectively, this group of 10,000 passionate, committed experts, practitioners, volunteers, et cetera, would all work together to essentially create the blueprints, the plans for transforming all of these global issues. And some of them will be done via very specific projects that are very focused on a specific area. Others will be global projects and will require ongoing global coordination. But at a high level, that's kind of the picture that we're painting. That's what Spectral Radius is. But instead of happening at a physical, conference, massive conference center someplace where people have to all fly in from different parts of the world, this is all happening online. The conference is starting, well, it started, a few months ago. It's starting off slow, but more and more people are coming. And it's essentially a conference that never ends. It's ongoing. Different groups of experts can organize and host meetings whenever they want, literally whenever they want, all over the web, all through these recorded and broadcast Google Hangouts, right? So that's kind of the essence of how Spectral Radius works. And over time, we'll be talking about other aspects of it because it's a really kind of deep topic. What happens when you bring together so many passionate, committed individuals all to work together on a specific project who can meet whenever they want and can spawn new topics and new meetings, et cetera, et cetera. It essentially has the makings of what's referred to as a complex adaptive system. You can have a system which is defined by a very small set of rules. In this case, the set of rules are you can create any new topics you want, you can connect them to existing topics and thus build out this taxonomy of topics. And within each topic, you can hold meetings, video conferences, which are broadcast and recorded so that anyone can see them. And that's it. Obviously there'll be other rules as to how we operate Spectral Radius. There'll be bylaws, there'll be board of directors, advisory board, all kinds of stuff like that. But fundamentally, those are the rules. But from that very, very simple set of rules, which it took maybe 20 seconds to articulate, will evolve a very complex system, right? With hundreds, thousands, eventually tens of thousands of distinct topics, with amazing combinations of people coming together to discuss those topics, all of which is rolling up to a grand central aim, which, to articulate it briefly, means everyone is nourished, everyone's human rights are articulated and respected. We are living life as humanity, living life on planet Earth in a way that's sustainable, in a way that guarantees a good quality of life for future generations, for plants, for animals, for the ecosystems, the climate, et cetera, that war be completely obsolete, that through this function of global cooperation and coordination, which is facilitated through Spectral Radius, which is an international platform. We'll have Spectral Radius meetings in Spanish and Mandarin and, you name the language. Through this asset, through this platform, we will be able to continuously evolve our abilities and our systems, our programs, our policies as a planet for essentially how to live for how to configure our economy and maintain our economy on a track that's safe for the planet and safe for all humanity, is our economy, our political systems, etc. Right? So we're essentially talking about global transformation across multiple dimensions. And in terms of, I just love this medium that we can have these live broadcast video conferences where people from all around the world can come together and coordinate and cooperate on taking on a specific issue and transforming it, and doing it in an evolutionary way where there is perfect memory of all the conversations that already came before. So if you think about it from kind of an information sciences perspective, you're bringing together thousands of different minds, thousands of different experts and professionals and volunteers, people who have tremendous deep expertise and knowledge and connections. You're bringing them all together in a way that they can self-organize in all these different topics or rooms, to use the conference center analogy, right? And to coordinate and collaborate and co-create, working together, right? And collectively, it's all with a central mission. So if you think about it from the standpoint of intelligence, you've got, say, if you have 10,000 participants, you've got 10,000 times the processing power that a given human brain has. You have vastly more connections. I mean, look at the taxonomy on Spectral Radius, look at the taxonomy on beyondmastering.com. These are all connections which you can think of kind of like synaptic connections, but it's really part of a broader class of connections. So you have vastly increased processing power, tremendous number of connections. You have this high bandwidth form of communication between the different minds in the system. I mean, look at how much richer it is to communicate via video conference, where you can hear me, you can see my facial expressions, tone of voice, gestures, and the way that the different people are interacting with each other. That's all tremendously rich information, and it's really opening up. It's the closest that we can get to having true face-to-face conversations, right? The video conferences. And then you have perfect memory because you have recordings of all these conversations that people can play anytime. So that combination of increased processing power, increased synaptic connections, and perfect memory, as far as I'm concerned, that constitutes, by definition, a vastly higher form of intelligence than anything we've witnessed that's terrestrial, than anything we've witnessed that's on Earth thus far. And that's a pretty profound statement. And I actually believe that, well, here, I'll paraphrase Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them, right? So Spectral Radius affords us new ways of thinking, new ways of collaborating, new ways of co-creating, and roll it all up, and it constitutes a higher form of intelligence, where it's not just the intelligence of one human, it's the intelligence of all of us working together in close coordination and cooperation. That higher form of intelligence will spawn new forms of thinking, which is exactly what the doctor ordered in terms of transforming these global issues, which up until now, so many people, I believe, think are kind of intractable, right? Oh, global hunger, oh, it's always there. It's really sad. I'm really sorry about that, but, it's just part of the reality of life. War, well, it's tragic, it's terrible. I wish it wouldn't happen, but it's human nature. We're competitive, we fight, all this stuff. Speaking of which, actually, one of the things that I'd like to implement on Spectral Radius is that since we haven't written the bylaws yet, we're in the process of drafting them, that we write into the bylaws and the articles that the board of directors must be an odd number of board members, and there must be a majority of women. So, a majority of women on the board of directors. That way, I mean, because let's face it, wars are instigated mostly by men, if not 100% by men. We've got testosterone, we've got these big egos, we've got this, oh, no, I'm the alpha male, I'm the one who, oh, you offended me, or you offended my dad, in the case of George W. Bush. How much of going into Iraq was an ego thing because his dad, wasn't able to do the job, so his son's going to get in there and finish the job kind of thing. Anyway, that's all stuff that I associate with males, right, with men, right? I think if we had a majority of board members who were women, this was partly inspired by this great film called Misrepresentation, which is on Netflix. We'll have to watch it sometime together, or you can watch it on your own. But a great film, and anyway, that's where I got the idea. So we're going to implement all kinds of structures and rules and systems of that nature, right, to help keep Spectral Radius on track, which of course our aim is that this be the medium which helps the world to transform these issues. We'll talk a little bit about the culture of Spectral Radius, and then we'll dive into some specific topics in upcoming videos. But the meetings that we're going to have on Spectral Radius will be, first of all, we'll have the rule that they have to be poison-free, right? I mean, and you know, how do you police that? How do you make sure? It's kind of like pornography. You know, it's hard to create a precise definition for pornography, but I know it when I see it, kind of thing, right? And here we'll have a lot of eyeballs, and we'll have board and advisory board, and you know, all kinds of people ensuring that Spectral Radius has integrity, right? So meetings without poison, meetings without bullying, without interruptions, et cetera, and you know, and if somebody strays beyond those boundaries, you know, we'll have a conversation with them about it. And since it's all recorded, you know, it's not like, hey, we had this meeting and here's my version. No, here's my. Just watch the meeting, right? Because it's all recorded. See, this is utterly transformational. This technology. Also, other rules are that it has to be completely voluntary. In other words, it's not allowed that somebody say, hey, you have to go to this Spectral Radius meeting, right? Hey, I hear they're talking about interesting topics which are impacting our industry. Go to those meetings and kind of lobby for us or whatever. No. Everyone has to come on their own free will. There has to be zero pressure. And when we're participating in conversations, like let's say I ask you a meeting, I ask you a question during a meeting. There must be zero pressure for you to answer that question, right? Or defend anything that you've previously said. So this isn't a debate. This isn't about somebody winning or losing. This is about people coming together to co-create solutions and programs for our entire planet. Anyway, I've been kind of talking nonstop. Do you have any thoughts on all this? Any reactions, feedback?
No, I think it sounds good. Now, implementation.
Mm-hmm.
Implementation is the important thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're gonna talk about implementation. Actually, we're gonna talk about that when we go into specific examples, specific topics in a little bit here. But I'll just make a few more comments about Spectral Radius before we get into some examples. One is that really, and Alyssa Collins articulated this extremely well on one of our earlier videos, and that is this notion that we're all in this together, right? See, as individuals, obviously we look out for ourselves, we look out for our family, perhaps, you know, to some extent our local community, etc. But it's very rare that it extends beyond that, right, to the entire global community. And so the paradigm here for Spectral Radius is that we're all in this together. We're all one big human family. And how do we how do we look out for all of us? How do we transform our planet into a place where everyone is taken care of? So, and in fact, we're creating, one of the ways you could think of it is we're creating that Spectral Radius is a medium of self-identity for the imagined community that we're creating. See, before a community can come into existence, it first has to be imagined, right? Like take, you know, what the Mormons did to Utah and Salt Lake City and all that. They first mapped it out. They imagined the community, and then they went there and built it. And, you know, the proof's in the pudding. And so, actually the imagined community that we're creating has a name. The name is the compassionate economy. That's a concept. That's the imagined community of humans on planet Earth working together in a way that will, you know, bring about all of these transformations that we're talking about and make it sustainable, make it durable, that we have lasting peace at the international level, that everyone is nourished, everyone's basic human needs at a minimum are taken care of. So with that, let's wrap up this video, and then we'll see you on the next video where we'll go into the next series of videos where we'll go into specific topics. Thank you all for joining us. Dad, anything else to say before we wrap?
No.
Okay, we'll see you on the next video.